So, good morning. So, what has come to me this morning for the talk is I'm going to call this one the Art of Sitting. It can be quite the challenge. Because what we're doing in our non-doing and just sitting is we're challenging this deep-seated notion that we're a limited somebody that has a mind that has a body. And what makes it even more challenging is that this assumption has its place. You could say it is a segment of reality as it expresses itself. As the Sufis would call it, it is a station. It is one way in which the beloved expresses and experiences itself. And so the only issue is that the beloved or you get stuck in this mode. You just believe this is what I am, and this limited, separate, alone one with this very, very difficult mind mechanism and this body that gives me all sorts of problems and also gives me all sorts of joy. Mixed blessing, you could say. And so when we're asked to sit, because in this way of experience reality, it wants to move, it wants to do things, it wants to solve things. And what we're saying, okay, let's just challenge this. Is this all there is? Is this all that's really going on? And so usually when we go, okay, I am just going to sit and do nothing and just sit and be present. And usually, almost immediately, there's a battle that goes on. The body gets restless, need to move. This low position is not comfortable. My shoulders get tense. My mind starts to wander and think about all the things it could be doing other than this torturous task of just sitting. On and on and on it goes. And there can also be this impulse to just get up and get out of here. And so you sit. And so there's a few things that can be helpful. The first one, which isn't so helpful, but it can be, is that to see that every little thing that appears, whether it is an uncomfortable sensation, an idea, a thought train, getting lost, getting found, you start to see that it is all a passing. And that if you're just watching, it's not still what was a big deal. If you watch it, changes, and then there's a new big deal. It's almost like the mechanism, the mind mechanism that wants to stay stuck in its little tunnel vision mode is challenging. It's saying, okay, I didn't get him on that one. Maybe I should see if I can get her on this one. And so it can be rather interesting. Could call that the spacious approach. What do I keep landing in this spacious watching no thing, you could say? And this approach can take kind of a lot of fortitude to get there. And the other thing that I think helps more so is to fall into the felt sensation of the experience. Now, it's interesting if all of a sudden you're feeling a lot of joy and relaxation and everything is just going okay. Usually there is an automatic falling into that. There's an automatic okayness. Oh, I got it now. I'm cruising. Maybe I'll really see something soon. And then you notice the mind looking again, and you notice that. But where it has more of its power is when things are not going so well. You're uncomfortable, you're restless, something hurts, or maybe fear is coursing through, or there's resistance. And the mind takes off on this and makes it into something. And then you go, oh, that felt sensation of resistance, that pain in my shoulder, that's my now. Can I out-breathe into that? Can I out-breathe on the next out-breath and sigh into that discomfort? And as grace would have it, you feel just a tiny, tiny bit of spacious okayness as you breathe out and you sigh into this intensity that won't let go. And for a moment, you taste there's no owner of it when I'm just that terrible sensation. When all of a sudden that's all there is for a moment is this intensity. And then, of course, the mind comes back and it says, you nuts? We can't be there. We've got to do something about it. And you notice, oh, there it goes again. Oh, here comes the next out breath. I collapse and sigh out into this terrible place. And usually then it's, oh, it's got me. There's nothing I can do about it right now, but let it have me. And you start to see, as bad as it can feel, it's your anchor here. And you start to feel there's something bigger than the intensity. There's something bigger than the me that wants to do something about the intensity. It's okay just the way it is. You taste this openness about it, a little bit of ease. And one or two things can happen there. Actually, more than two things. The first one is, quite unexpectedly, the discomfort just dissolves. Where'd it go? Or maybe it gets replaced by a different discomfort. Oh, now there's that one. Or maybe it just stays and it challenges and says, yeah, we'll see how long you last with that little trick. And so you hang with it with no expectation that it has to go anywhere. You just hear this unknowing showing up without defining it, without saying it's good or bad or ugly. Or there may be a complete embrace of it, a complete okayness about it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the body shifts position or something. Organic movement. Not from the mind's idea to fix, but from something deeper that says, yeah, you know what? Maybe you ought to lean back a little bit. It just happens. We don't have to be so hard-nosed about it. And the other thing that can be helpful is, you don't have to sit perfectly still. What I find helpful sometimes is to do gentle chair yoga. So you're sitting in with the felt sense, there's an okayness there, and all of a sudden maybe the creature mechanism, the piece that thinks it's mine, I can't stand it, maybe it needs a little comfort. So maybe you sway a little bit, you just sort of feel it swaying. Oh, like you're rocking yourself. Or, you move your head a little bit. Or maybe, you a little bit like that, It's not to be so martyrish about it. And then maybe after a little swaying, you see, oh, it stopped. The swaying stops. It's like, yeah, I'm stopped again. What now? Another out breath. I'm just here. You're basically more or less getting out of the way. With the simple intent, I'm just resting and sitting in what is here. And what you start to see, it does different things. Sometimes it can get so deep and open and relaxed, and you start to feel the whole thing is just flowing. Oh, there's one thing, then there's the next thing, and you start to feel that stillness that is in the midst of it, and yet totally permeating in this flow of appearance. It gets to where you can't tell where you begin and where you end. Which can sometimes be quite the problem if you hear the machinery outside and all of a sudden you're losing your boundary and all of a sudden you feel the intensity of that machinery and then the boundary comes back and the mind says, I don't like feeling that. I've got to put up a little boundary. And so you notice that and you sink into the need for boundary and resistance. Now there's this. Or it can also take on the spectacle of pure hell. Oh, this is never going to stop. This is so intense, sometimes referred to as a purging. You got to let it breathe. You got to stay with it. You got to let it have its way. It may show you something. It may show you some deep-seated story. It may just get you to feel like it was what it was like when you were a powerless little infant that had no control over anything. And what you start to see is even that is held by the space of now. That even that holds the one who thinks that's a problem, that doesn't like it, that needs to do something about it, that needs to cover it up. And basically, you start to see through all these scenarios as it just passes by, as this beautiful tapestry of difficulty and ecstasy. You start to see how the whole thing is a flow. You start to see how this flow builds this thing called me and my world and me and my problem. And you start to see how it builds it automatically, that there isn't really someone in there that's in charge of it getting built, that it sort of just happens on its own. And the minute you get out of the way, where's the issue with it? It's just a flow. That's just flowing in what and through what. That which is undefinable, that which is unquantifiable, that which always just is, regardless of whether it feels really, really good right now in the flow or it really, really feels lousy in the flow. You feel yourself as an open door for everything, and you start to see there isn't really even a door. It's just open. And then the last piece is that when the bell rings and the body and mind says, I need to get up and move, by all means do it and be the flow as it moves. And the last piece is, or I said the last piece, didn't I? The last piece, which is something I wanted to mention last night, is that, there are times when it may be too much sitting in here. That's the point of having the upstairs. You can always go upstairs and lay down on the sofa. Just another option. Or if you feel like you need to scream or something and there's no containing it, you're very welcome to go up and outside and scream. If they can have their barking dogs going all day long, they can handle a little scream. Okay.